All right, let's talk about a way to get to Canada that, well, it completely flips the script on the usual competitive point system. If you've ever pictured yourself living out on Canada's beautiful East Coast, then you're going to want to stick around for this.
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with what makes this path so different. Then we'll hit the one rule you absolutely have to understand. We'll walk through how to check if you're eligible, break down the 5 steps to apply, cover the serious risks you need to avoid, and then we'll wrap it all up with some quick answers to your biggest questions. Okay, first up, what makes this path to Canada so different? Look, we all know Canadian immigration can feel like this endless, stressful race for points. The Atlantic Immigration Program, or AIP, was built from the ground up to be a totally different game.
Does this sound familiar? You're constantly checking your CRS score, stressing about every single point, trying to figure out how to squeeze out a few more. It's exhausting, right? And for a lot of people, it just feels like a losing battle.
Well, here's the alternative. This program couldn't care less about your points. What it really cares about is one thing: a genuine job offer from a specific type of employer. It's a total shift. It's not about how high you score. It's about whether a local business wants to hire you. Now, this program is only for Canada's 4 beautiful Atlantic provinces. We're talking New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland and Labrador. Each one has its own unique charm, but they all share this one powerful immigration tool designed to bring in people they really need.
Okay, let's move on to what is, and I'm not exaggerating here, the single most important concept in this entire program. If you don't get this part, nothing else will make sense.
So what on earth is a designed employer? Well, it's not just any company. It's a business that has gone through a whole process with its provincial government to get a special stamp of approval. And here's why that's so important. It means the government has already checked them out. They're legit, they have real job needs, and it's a system designed to protect you, the applicant, from scams. These employers are literally the gatekeepers for this entire pathway.
This slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, with the traditional paths, you're basically on your own, just a number competing against thousands of others. But on the right, with the Atlantic program, your journey doesn't even start until a real company wants to hire you. It's all about that relationship, not a score.
Okay, so we've got the employer side covered, but what about you? Do you actually qualify? In this section, let's dig into the nitty-gritty of what you and your job offer need to have to be in the running.
First things first, work experience. You need 1,560 hours. Now, that number might sound random, but it basically just breaks down to 1 year of full-time, paid work within the last 5 years. And the cool thing is, it covers a huge range of jobs, so it's a pretty achievable goal for most people.
And check this out. The education side of things is also super reasonable. For some of the higher skilled management or professional jobs, you need a 1-year college diploma or equivalent. But for a ton of other skilled trades and jobs, a high school diploma is all you need. The key thing to remember, though, is you have to get your foreign education verified with something called an ECA. Now this is where it gets really, really interesting. Just look at the difference in those language scores. For some jobs, you only need a CLB-4. That's a basic functional level of English or French. Now compare that to Express Entry, where you pretty much need a CLB-7 or higher just to have a chance. This right here is an absolute game changer. And finally, the job offer itself has some very specific rules. It's got to be full-time, so no part-time gigs. It can't be seasonal, like just for the summer. It obviously has to be from one of those special designated employers, and it has to be for at least a year. These rules are all in place to make sure it's a real stable job.
So let's say you tick all those boxes. What happens now? Think of this next part as your step-by-step roadmap, taking you all the way from finding that job to getting your permanent residency in Atlantic Canada.
It all kicks off with step 1, the big one. You have to land that job with a designated employer. Then something really unique happens. You connect with a local agency to get a free settlement plan. With your job offer and that plan in hand, your employer gets a green light from the province, which is called an endorsement. And that's the moment you can finally apply for permanent residence. Oh, and there's a neat little bonus. You can often get a work permit to start your job while you wait. Okay, this all sounds pretty great, right? But we absolutely have to talk about the risks. This is the part where you need to listen really closely, because making a mistake here can have some pretty serious consequences. I want you to burn this sentence into your brain. Real, legitimate companies will never, ever ask you to pay them for a job offer. If anyone, an employer, an agent, anybody, asks you for money for an AIP job, it is a giant flashing red flag. It's a scam, full stop. And I'm not just talking about losing your application fee. This is serious. It's called misrepresentation in the eyes of Canadian immigration, and if you're caught, it can get you banned from coming to Canada in any capacity for 5 whole years. It's just not worth the risk.
And there are a couple of other things you need to watch out for. Think of these as insider tips. First, that employer, they have to keep their designated status through your whole application process. If they lose it, you're out of luck. Second, and this is a big one, you have to prove that you genuinely plan to live in that Atlantic province. If an officer gets a whiff that you're just using this program as a backdoor to get to Toronto or Vancouver, they will refuse your application.
All right, let's wrap this all up by tackling some of the most common questions people have. The practical stuff, like how much this costs and how long it all takes.
So, what's this going to cost you? Looking at the main government fees, you're talking about just over 1,500 Canadian dollars per adult. And the timeline? Well, once you get that all-important provincial endorsement, the actual processing for your permanent residence application is running about 10 to 14 months right now. And here is another huge advantage of this program. The amount of money you need to show you have, the settlement funds, it's incredibly low, around $3,400 for a single person. When you compare that to a program like Express Entry, where you need $15,000 or more, it's not even in the same ballpark. It makes it so much more accessible.
Okay, let's do a quick lightning round of the top questions. Does the employer need one of those complicated LMIAs? Nope. Can you move to another province later? Yes, but only after you get your PR and have actually settled in the Atlantic province first. Where do you find these employers? On the official provincial government websites. They all have lists. And can you bring your family? Yes, absolutely. Your spouse and kids can be included.
So, we'll leave you with this question to think about. The Atlantic Immigration Program isn't about having the highest score. It's about finding a real job with a real employer in a community that is actively looking for new people to join them. The real question is, does that kind of pathway sound like a better fit for your personal journey to Canada?